howdy.
Hey, look at you guys showing up.
Then you gave it all back.
We're talking about our addiction.
Literally gave it all back.
Drinking,
Alcohol, shitty boats, gamblers, couple gamblers,
hunting, driving out west, buying camping stuff.
trail cameras, shitty
All the fun
boats.
stuff in life has to be bad, I guess.
Yeah.
The knock was in a different place than the air. Yeah. This way. Far apart.
Stomped it into his limp leg. He started walking over here. Good. Both of them. Oh no.
Well, at least he still got a buck tag.
Leather glove.
It is snowing like I've never seen before.
Make him a little wider.
Like this? Like that or like this?
Fucking chug like that.
That's awesome.
Where is it?
My buck was bigger than yours.
I was gonna give you. That's
The
always
second thing
That's
is
all
I
we took out
cut
there?
the nuts off for you to feel, but you didn't bring them. But I did bring them. Kill box.
I helped drag the deer out.
The bottle's gonna be empty before
You guys are really taking some big swings.
It will be empty before I'm ever able to drink out of that thing.
All right, guys.
Welcome to the Deer Shop Podcast, presented by Siman Brothers Outdoors and the Leaky John Boat Company.
He went and watched a movie that has a $200 million production budget, and then the next thing he watched was our video on YouTube that has a $0 production budget.
This is the first buck I've shot in over 10 years.
Your track job was the first fun track job. That kind of like, I think part of my life was influenced by that night.
Then you miss him 3 times with a rifle at 70 yards on video, got the whole world to see.
Yeah, that's what killed it. 5 years ago, we couldn't shoot a deer at 100 yards with a slug gun. Now you're shooting turkeys at 100 yards with a shotgun.
Joey takes the shop is closing up.
Make sure he takes all his right antlers. You can't leave anything. All right, guys. Deer Shop Podcast, episode 79. We are in the shop today with the brother that's on the podcast the least amount. The Leaky John Boat himself is in the shop because he took a sledgehammer to his number one buck that we called Sledge all year and killed him good stone dead last Sunday.
Killed his antlers off like Isaac said.
Yeah, we're going to tell this whole story. There's a reason we don't have a skull cap here.
We just have antlers.
Luke killed him so dead his antlers fell off. He actually killed him last Sunday after we recorded last week's episode 78. We talked about Luke and his encounters a little bit. He went out that evening and killed his number one. And we're going to get into that in a little bit. We're going to do our intro here. Isaac is really the only other person that's hunted this week. Mm-hmm. You went out with Uncle Jay yesterday. Uncle Jay wanted to kill doe. You went out with your recurve bow, trying to kill the old 4-year-old 9.
Yeah, still haven't got I guess my new bow's pretty much fully set up yet.
Yeah.
Still got some sighting in it.
You did, so we can rewind quick. Last week we talked about bows and your new bow set up. You did make it to Cromer's.
Yeah.
And get your bow all set up.
Bow shooting darts. I just have to do some work with sighting my bow in and setting the pins and stuff. I can go shoot out to 30 now, no problem.
I like that you're pulling the recurve out here late season to try and kill a doe, and then maybe if you get an opportunity at the old 4-year-old 9. We have an imposter buck I noticed today. Mm-hmm. I've noticed him before, but I started to kind of pick up on it. There's a buck that looks almost exactly identical to the 4-year-old 9. His body looks exactly the same, and his rack is it's the same, but just a little bit different and a little bit smaller.
Yeah, and he's got the 9 on the same side.
Yeah,
he's still got the split brow, but the split brow is definitely different.
It's kind of strange. And the more, I see that buck, and it makes me think that maybe the 4-year-old 9, and we've talked about this gosh damn deer to death on this podcast lately. Maybe the 4-year-old 9's not the buck I thought he was last year, but it's so hard to tell. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be able to do some hunting this week. I might be able to get out Tuesday if your fiance can help me out, and then Lindsay's off Wednesday and I'm off Wednesday. So I can actually hunt morning and night Wednesday. I know that kind of sounds funny for people, a morning hunt this time of year, but We want to kill some meat, and the deer are hitting those piles in the morning a lot.
Big time.
So I might go out in the morning. I'm going to do some scouting on Wednesday. So there's this area where we're hunting the bucks, the 4-year-old nine, some of those other deer. We have a large section of the farm on the opposite side of the road that isn't really producing much in order to kill. So I'm going to do some heavy scouting, I think, on Wednesday because the snow has been on the ground for about 2 weeks now. So trails and beds and all that shit is going to stick out like a sore dick.
Well, the south side, you're not going to be able to do much because that whole back ridge is tracks.
Yeah, I'm not going to go.
Completely full of tracks.
I'm not even going to touch it. I'm going to go on the north side, find some bedding areas, see where they're spending time this late season. I might redeploy some cell cameras literally in the bedding areas to see how they use it. This is going to be an informational gathering scout. Dad started cutting firewood again, which has changed up some patterns of these deer a little bit. Our farm is not, contrary to popular belief, we don't use our farm simply for hunting deer. It's got the whole gamut of uses, and this time of year, Dad's got to cut
recreational, firewood,
yeah,
ride side by side somewhat, have parties, blah, blah, blah.
It's not a perfect deer farm with the sanctuaries and all that stuff. So Dad started cutting firewood this week, and it has changed the deer patterns a little bit. The 3-year-old 10, the buck that we've all passed a bunch of times, beautiful deer that we would love to see next year. He has started moving his pattern a little bit. He started feeding over half a mile away, 0.63 miles away on a different pile on a different section of the farm where he hasn't been at all. Mm-hmm. I think that was the first picture I've got of him in that section of the farm this year. So that's kind of shifted the patterns a little bit. Now, he did come back to the normal pile, but Dad's been cutting firewood in that general area, a couple hundred yards from there, and it does show that they will push the deer a little bit.
And these deer are doing what we call yarding this time of year.
Yeah.
They're all in big groups, and they're moving around in big groups. So if you push them around, they can move long distances, and then you can not see them for several days.
Yep. And they're eating off someone else's corn pile.
And
their bellies are full of corn and only corn right now.
A lot of them are eating kind of all day, too. They're browsing around all day. They'll bed for half an hour, get up, browse around. And the woods are so open that if you walk back there or Dad cuts wood, it just bumps them way out.
Yep. It's a fun time of year to hunt. This last episode that we're working on, Luke's entire story will be featured in it, and then Ethan's got a doe kill for it. I have all of Tyler's hunting late season in it. Isaac's got some late season hunting. I have my late season hunting. It'll be an hour long, just massive amount of deer footage, buck footage, killing footage, extravaganza of an episode. Because this time of year, we lay down so much footage. Mm-hmm. It's crazy.
And the way these deer are moving, they're moving into the wind. So when you're trying to kill them, you kind of got to hunt them on the edge. I think that was half the problem last night. I was hunting a wind where
What was the wind last night?
It was south. So the bedding area was blowing right at me. So why in the world would they come out of the bedding area?
Back to the wind of the back?
Yeah, with their wind to the back.
Our best hunts have been when there's a west wind over there.
Because they kind of edge it. So they come from the southwest, and we have a west wind. We can kind of get them to edge in before they hit our wind.
I was disappointed I was at work yesterday, so I was watching Isaac's hunt unfold on the cell cams, and I was pretty disappointed with the lack of deer in front of you during the day.
Yeah,
because I know you would have shot a doe with that recurve bow if you had a chance, and there wasn't one.
And so a bunch of does came in probably about half hour before.
Off to your left.
So they came in from behind me.
Yeah,
the valley. So they came completely downwind
to the east.
And I heard them rustling. I turned around. And they made it up to the top of the hill. So one of them made it to 40 yards.
Your entrance trail?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just looking around because they could definitely smell me. And then down below, there was 8 more does. So they kind of milled around for 10 minutes and then went back where they came from because they definitely smelled me.
The spot that Luke is using, the spot where Luke killed Sledge, and we'll talk about this at length later, but I don't necessarily love having the radix there, but for our winters, it is fucking foolproof.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It is, the wind and everything is perfect for that spot. It's not really sexy early and late season like this when you're hunting corn piles, though. It works so good.
I wish there was maybe next year we'll take the trailer blind out to that point we talked about.
Yeah, we have options, obviously. I want to buy another trailer blind.
Which point? On the northeast kind of point where the field comes out. Where all those
I
deer
would
were
love
coming
for
out
you
of the
to
woods
be able to come off of the farm. Head south.
I know you're talking
about.
Talking
Get in there and watch the valley and the food plot area.
There's an old stand hung on that fence row.
Yeah,
but we could put the trailer blind right at the point, and you cover all that field because all those bucks you saw when you were hunting way in the west corner.
Yeah, but that point's a bedding area too. I've pushed so many deer right out of that bedding
during
area.
the rut.
Yeah, but if you walk straight from the farm south, and just walk right into that blind.
Because they're
Not gonna
coming
push
from the
anything out.
east. Like during the rut, watching your footage and stuff and listening to the locals, I was getting people, Tate Arters was texting me, hey, there's a shooter X right here, and he's coming this way. Like, during the rut, if you get in there when the deer are getting helter-skeltered, they're coming past that point out into the main field. Of course, the food's going to change next year, too.
And if you hunt that with any sort of south wind, your wind's blowing right into the road, and you're good.
The wind is so important this late season, and that's what got this conversation started. I mean, the deer will go out of their way to try and enter in from downwind, but there's only so much they can do when it's snowing like this. So they do the slow walk in, 10 steps, stop, look their nose, look around, 10 steps, stop, look their nose. So if you're downwind of them, you're in good shape.
You got to hit just the perfect edge, though.
Yep.
That's how it is.
Speaking of the scouting in this time of year, Nick's already finding sheds in his corn pile, so that I might be able to find a couple bones
another
on
cell
Wednesday.
cam induced shed find.
Yeah, we love them. I love them. It was a very expensive shed that Nick found. Speaking of Nick and that shed he found, when Luke killed this buck last Sunday, Cassick ended up spending some time here in the shop. He came over for the buck party. He hasn't been on the podcast yet this year. He's been pretty silent. If you're a listener or a watcher of the YouTube, our buddy Cassick is Mr. Automatic, and he hunts kind of close to Alex and Nick. So Alex, Nick, and Cassick's farms are all kind of in a line with a mile or two separating them. So they're all kind of in the same vicinity. Freeman's also there, too, where he killed his buck. So all those guys kind of hunt the same general area. Cassick has killed a mature buck with his bow 6 years in a row, and we are now entering the third week of January, and he hasn't yet.
So we have 1 week left, right?
Two weeks. Yeah, it
weeks.
ends like February.
No.
2nd.
1 week.
Next Sunday, a week from now.
Next Sunday's the last day.
It's early
so.
this year. Usually it's like
man.
the 7th or 8th.
Yeah, so Wednesday's important for me.
Yeah, we're down to the last week. 7
so we're
days.
down to the last week of. I guess it's the 20. I didn't realize it was the 26th. Holy shit, we got to do some work.
It's early this year, but the deer seem to be shedding. So
yeah, so
none of our bucks have shed that we've seen yet.
no, we want them to. I'm ready for them to start dropping.
Yeah,
but Mr. Automatic Ryan Cassick, he is putting in time. We talked to him. He said he's trying, and we know that there's. I'm not going to.
We'll give him a little bit of credit.
Possibly.
He got married this year. He went on a bunch of vacations.
Spent gun season for his wedding.
Yeah.
He doesn't. Well, he's a bow hunter though. He don't do the gun game. But
that's true.
I mean, Cassick, he had a situation. His main hunting property. He's lost some property due to just the way things are now. His main hunting property, like the neighbor had a gas well problem or something, so they were doing those all night long gas well refurb whatever, and it really screwed his shit up. So. We're hoping that he gets a deer here in the next week. Like I said, I'm going to go out a few times. Definitely going to kill the first available doe probably, and we'll see what happens with the 4-year-old 9, but nothing new showing up.
We'll have to check the wind for the rest of the week.
We've been camming. Yeah, if we got to make moves, we'll make moves.
And part of the good thing this year, as long as you're not hunting a certain buck, you can kind of hunt these stands because the deer are coming from all over.
Yeah.
So when the wind's blowing that way, you're just not going to get any of the deer from over there.
Right.
But you'll get the deer from over here.
Yep. We have kept the bait up on Luke's property because there was another buck that would be kind of killable that he saw during like November and December, but that deer hasn't been around.
No, the imposter buck showed up last night. I seen.
Yeah, that deer's safe and the tight one's safe, but like there was that heavy 8 that you filmed during November that we also had here on our farm. Yeah, that deer would get the shaft from one of us if he showed, but he's been gone. So who knows what's going on with that? I don't think he's alive anymore. Or if he is, he's just
there's
back
like
to
a lot
whatever.
of hunters that don't have social media, older hunters around me that deer sometimes just disappear.
Hopefully, I was speaking with a local. I'm going to give it in this next section. I'm going to give him a shout, but I was speaking with a local guy and asked him if he had your number one Jack. Yeah, and he never had him once this year because we were talking after his granddaughter killed that deer. We kind of started talking about some deer here and there, and I asked him if he had the river bottom record 10 or whatever, and he's like, "No, man, I have no idea what you're talking about." But
I mean, if I had that deer, I would say no too, though.
He would maybe he would. I mean, I wouldn't blame him if he kept it from him, but he acted like no, he didn't have anything on that.
Deer wars.
And I think they would be hunting their property differently if there was that deer there. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But never had Jack, never had your buck at all. That's what started the conversation. Like, I never seen Luke's buck at all. I'm like, that's interesting. The fact that he never had Jack is interesting to me because we kind of thought maybe that was the area. But
and I know you're about to get into it, but it seems like there's been an exorbitant amount of deer shot this late season. Bucks. More so than there has been.
Yes,
in the past.
most late seasons, if the deer survive muzzleloader, we start putting them on our hit list, start gathering up intel to find their sheds.
Yeah, put them in that file
like
on the computer.
those deer survived the gun hunters, and we got about a month of season left. Like, we are good to go.
Not so much.
We lost Tyler's buck, the legendary Tyler's buck we talked about last week. On the podcast, we were talking about the bows last week. We had that nice 8-point that we think maybe 3 or 4 years old that showed up on our farm again. Like, man, that's going to be the deer for next year. It's a good fucking sign. He's dead. He got killed by...
All these deer killed in January.
He got killed by the $1 million neighbor who bought his property for killing big bucks.
Which it's for sale right now.
Yeah, if you want to buy it, go ahead and look. But, yeah, we've lost a lot of bucks in the late season this year, which is... That's part of the game.
Yeah,
and every year, it's
usually
always
it's us shooting some of these
we're
deer
always
in
hitting
the
the panic button, like, oh, it's going to be so bad next year. But guess what? There's going to be deer that show up next year or that make a big jump. There's deer right now that are using our farms that we don't give a shit about that are going to be 140s next year. And we're like, whoa.
And these deer that we want to live, there's still a pretty good number of deer that we want to live right now. And they have no choice but to at least be big and mature. Whether they're going to be 150s or not.
We got lucky with our own – so, like, our farm is kind of spread out. It's not – if you're a listener, our farm is not one contiguous piece. It's got different pieces. We got lucky on our one piece that all the deer that we watched all year long
are staying around.
All the 3-year-old bucks that we watched all year round that we were sure were going to get bushwhacked have all survived up until 1 week left in the season. We have 7 days, and they've all survived those 7 up until now. So we are in decent shape there.
And they're starting.
One of our other sections of the farm, so bad. Barren wasteland, every deer killed, nothing mature.
I don't know about that.
Pretty bad.
But there's also deer there you don't really know about a lot, too.
Possibly. Couple local shout-outs. I had a conversation with Hunter Moore. Me and him went back and forth on Facebook Messenger a lot this week. Said he's a guy, he's just one of our listeners. He's kind of a local listener. He said a lot of good things about our podcast and just really likes that he can tune into something that's kind of local. Had some good conversations with him. He shot a nice buck this year, so I wanted to give him a shout-out because we had a great conversation. The guy we were just talking about a little bit ago, I had some good conversations with old Gene Miller, and if you're a local, I don't know if you can see in the shot, maybe Isaac has it cropped out, but he was the old commander-in-chief for Medina County Hunters for a while. His grandson Logan killed a giant 9-point, a deer that he called Stedman, a deer that we were actually pretty familiar with.
Yeah, he was
somewhat familiar with. We had him when he was kind of a younger deer, and he was a deer that is on an ancillary farm of ours that we probably would have shot, but we only had him come through during the rut like 1 or 2 times this year. But so he's obviously not.
What did he go? Did he go 160?
The video, Logan's video, so his grandson Logan killed the deer, and he has his own YouTube channel, Logan's Outdoors. The video says he went 164.
I mean, he's huge.
He's got a lot of long tines. Like his tines are
huge
long.
Frame.
And he looks even bigger because Logan's a little guy. He's a teenager.
Congrats to him.
That was cool. Then his granddaughter Madison also killed a buck this last week. I think it was her first buck. Logan made a video up for her, so congratulations to them.
Nice little 10.
I sent them
9 or 10 point.
Yeah, it's like a younger 10 point. Good mass though. Mm-hmm. I sent Gene when we were talking back and forth. I sent him the video that you had of that buck fighting, and he said it was real cool to be able to see it because you have like 20 minutes of that buck wrecking another one.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, it was in the Alex kill video, the October lull, when our Drakus killed early and got us all started off. And then another local guy, I don't know if he listens to the podcast. I know he watches the videos every once in a while, but Jamie Lettner, a neighbor of mine where I actually live in my house, he killed a nice buck late season. Cool character, definitely mature, heavy, older, looked like an older deer. He only kills old deer. He gets real worked up. People shoot his young deer, kind of like us. I don't know the deer at all. Never had pictures, so I don't know exactly where he killed it, if it was a local or if it was somewhere at one of his other farms. But Jamie killed a nice buck, so I want to give him a shout-out. I know I talked to Chris Toth last night a little bit. He bought a blind to start taking his kids out, and his daughter was out hunting late season. I don't think they killed anything, but he bought it's a Stump 4 or something. I looked it up online. It's pretty cool. I think it's made by Banks Outdoors, maybe.
Like a big
like
crazy
an insulated redneck type blind.
Looks like a giant tree stump.
Yeah. Chris runs the drone service that we use here. Skyhound drone recovery if we need drones. So he was taking his daughter out hunting. He was sending me some videos yesterday, so that's cool. Anyone else you guys want to shout out locally?
Not when it comes to hunting, I don't think. We haven't been...
Before we start talking about your deer, Luke, let's talk about your fishing real quick. You are the Leaky John boat himself.
Yeah, you have been fishing.
You have been fishing a lot. You hit your monetization threshold. You've been at Lake Erie when it wasn't frozen for catching walleyes. You did some trout tip-up fishing in some local ponds.
Yeah, local farm, like a hunt club pond.
Yeah.
They stock trout, and they let us go in there and fish for trout.
You keep them or release them?
We released them all. Yeah. We kept wanting, swallowed the hook, but
trout tastes like shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's bad.
If you eat trout, I feel bad for you because it's the worst fish. I'd rather eat a carp fried up in panko, you know.
Yeah, we eat trout every year in Pennsylvania. And it's just
so bad. I don't even know
we did that so we could prepare ourselves for Lake Erie, just kind of get familiar with everything again. And
Are you going tomorrow?
No.
Melting.
We were going to go yesterday, but there's a south wind on Lake Erie with ice.
Push you to Canada.
Super sketchy.
And it's warm today. It's probably 30 degrees today. Sunny.
There's crazy people out there right now, but
Pavlik was out there this week. Right?
Yeah, he was out there on Friday.
We could shout out Pavlik. He was out there
he went
20 hours.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how long he was really out there, but it seemed like Matt was out there for about 20 hours. Caught a 29-incher and some other ones.
Yeah.
Petrie says that the fish are all skinny. He's not happy. It's not good.
That may be a bad sign
Pavlik's
for the
fish
future.
was a male.
Wasn't
so
a male?
Skinnier, but
they said they're not catching football giant fish through the ice, which they usually do. So
is there a chance that bubble is bursting? I mean, I'm not a biologist.
I don't know.
I know the bubble's
had an awesome Lake Erie walleye.
Yeah, the last 4 or 5 years has been a crazy boom.
It's ever been.
But I think I did some reading on it, and it worked one day because we have some guys that are walleye fishermen at my work, run charters and stuff actually. Yes, there's an absolute obvious crap ton of people fishing for walleye here in North Ohio. But during the spawn, millions are born.
Yeah.
And they get to be catchable size, 3-4 years?
I think like a keeper
That's
size
18 to 20 is 3 or 4
yeah.
years.
And they supplement it, don't they? Do they stock some?
I
think they hatch some and stock some. I'm pretty
sure
they
do. So I know that our entire steelhead fishery is that way.
Yeah.
And speaking of, is that soon?
Yeah,
March,
steelhead
right?
fishing started
February,
in
March?
November, but I usually go March, April.
Are you going to make some videos of that?
Probably, since the new boat I bought is not going to be in the water until April or May.
Yeah, we talked about we said some mean things about your boat last week on the podcast.
We announced it. We announced it for you.
We know you didn't.
Because I don't know if you've announced it on your channel yet.
No, I haven't.
There's a leaky 3, right?
Yeah.
It'd be 4 or 5.
This is the leaky yacht.
Yeah.
It has a cabin. So
yeah.
I think that makes it a yacht.
19-foot Starcraft Islander.
I don't know what that means, but Luke has a new piece of shit boat.
New piece of shit boat that we're going to make not a piece of shit and do some walleye fishing on.
Yeah,
I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I'm happy for you guys. You can finally take Mom out fishing, you said.
I can finally take Mom out.
Finally somewhere where you can take a poop on the boat.
Yeah, there will be.
I mean, yeah, I guess that's a big deal. I'm usually just puking over the side, so it don't matter. But yeah, the leaky 4 or 5 is in progress.
It's sitting out in the snow. I thought you were putting it in the barn.
I got to make room in the barn.
There's
still.
There's plenty of room in the barn.
I got to do some organizing. I'll get it in there.
What's your next fishing video that's going to be on your channel?
Right now, undecided. I don't have nothing.
There's nothing in the queue?
Nothing queued up. Nope.
The problem is January and ice fishing is not good. So
ice fishing.
Why don't you just go up to the lake and catch some cats?
We went ice fishing yesterday, and it was so bad. We caught some fish.
Where'd you go?
Chippewa Lake.
Why don't you come up to our pond and go catch some cats?
I think that's what we might do next.
Yeah.
Just go up there and catch some crappie.
Go across the road and see if there's anything living over there.
Me and the brothers,
that's fun fishing.
Me and the brothers have talked about we have 2 farm ponds on the farm here. 2 3/4 acre farm ponds. We're gonna spend some time making them nice next year. We need to get these ponds.
Which we have been doing. I've been treating ours for years.
But we're gonna start supplemental feeding the fish and really get the quality of fish that we want in these ponds.
Yeah.
You know,
maybe in the springtime we'll get our water biologist guy on again and talk to him about our farm ponds instead of just our water holes.
Yep. Luke, you need to find a way to get a walleye to survive the trip down from Lake Erie, so we can put 1 walleye in each pond.
They will survive. There was one.
They'll survive, but
in the Salzgiver pond.
It'll live.
I've seen the Salzgiver
it'll
walleye.
live a terrible life.
We caught it. We caught the.
Well,
Salzgiver
I was never there when we caught it.
Oh, I was there when they caught it.
But I mean, you'd be fishing this farm pond in the rickety dock. Me and Jimmy just slamming beers and smoking Black and Milds, and we caught some bass. We were always trying for catfish, and I never caught any of the big catfish in there, even though he said they were. But every once in a while,
it's a half-acre pond, not even.
You'd see this fucking walleye,
probably 30-inch walleye in there eating everything.
Do you remember? This is a throwback, unrelated completely. Do you remember, back in that stage where we were hanging out at at Dougie Wellman's dad's house, and we were fishing in their pond for cats, and they were catching big cats out of the pond. Then we get in there and go bullfrogging and catch all the bullfrogs and get covered in leeches. That was a good time.
I know you reminisce about that stuff every day because you want to do it.
Because I'm just...
Yeah, but you'll have kids that are old enough to do that shit soon.
Yeah, I'm going to teach my daughter how to catch frogs, and she's probably about 2.5.
But
yeah.
anyways, yeah, a walleye could survive.
I mean, I guess it could.
We need one in each pond. We gotta get the water fixed in the northern.
See, that's
pond.
exactly opposite of like making a good habitat for pondfish. Is putting a walleye in there.
Nah, not if we supplemental feed and buy 10,000 minnows every year. I mean, that walleye ain't gonna eat that much.
There's also a possibility that walleye didn't come from Lake Erie. It may have came from Chippewa or something.
Is there any walleyes in Chip?
There's saugeye in Chippewa.
Yeah, you catch the saugeye. I've been with you catching the saugeye.
Is there walleye in any smaller bodies of water?
Yeah, there's
because they will probably survive
half an hour if you're
New London.
New London.
They may survive better than one from Lake Erie, I would assume.
Who knows?
I don't know.
I'd love to catch a walleye in the river.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be which river? Like the Maumee?
Well, the Black, but I don't think they can.
We've caught perch in the Black River.
We do catch perch, but the walleye can't. Well, one, it's not clean enough, and then two, there's a giant waterfall.
Well, the problem with the
In your
Black
town.
is
where you work.
Where I work, there is 2 low-head dams and a waterfall. So like there's 3 obstacles to get fish from
the
the
waterfall
lake.
is just impossible.
Do people fish below that waterfall?
Oh, yeah.
I know I've been down there.
I've
There's gotta
drove
be big
by
fish
on
down
calls.
there.
Like I'm running the engine on calls, and I look over as I'm going across the bridge on the Ave there. I've seen like 20-pound carp like completely jump the water as
we
I'm
do
driving.
we do need to go fishing down there.
We can. I mean, fuck.
I've been fishing in the river and caught some smallmouth, but I never made it all the way up to the dam.
There's the dam, and then like I said, there's 2 dams and a waterfall, and then I mean we should do that. We should make a leaky video, intercity leaky video where we go in
That'd
there.
be fun.
Yeah, I'm in.
I love
A couple
fishing
bump
smallies.
fights, got to step around the heroin needles and then catch some.
Bring a gun; it'll be fun.
Yeah. We'll be all right. I'll just wear my uniform, and then we'll be able to
Then
do
you'll be
whatever we
extra
want.
fine. Anyways, that's the leaky.
Yeah,
January,
that's
not
the
much else to
update
talk
on the
about.
leaky. Watch his channel, leakyjohnboat.com. And if you want any of our merchandise, the Leaky John Boat Company.com.
There's still some
It's on there.
SBO gear up on there.
Yeah, we're gonna
There's a
redo.
bunch.
We're gonna do some additions. It's I was scrolling through your website yesterday. It's a little stagnant.
Yeah, we got.
But
there's a
I want to
couple
get some trout fishing gear on there before season. Turkey hunting line. I'll help you with it. At least get you the designs. You're gonna have to do the rest. And then deer season, we're gonna have a new lineup of apparel. Your deer season lineup last year was pretty cool. The private land hunter and the side by side hoodie.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
I like the Bigfoot dragging a Bigfoot dragging a buck. That was my favorite for sure.
We can do more stuff like that.
I just got a born and raised T-shirt that has a Bigfoot riding an elk. So the Bigfoot thing's really
people
in
love
right now.
Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Are you still on the subscription to the
No, I
board?
just ended it.
You just ended it. The Bigfoot podcast will be coming soon. Whenever I get the script made and the first part filmed, then we'll get our guests in here and we'll do the big, giant Bigfoot podcast. I know we've talked about that a few times, but one of these days we'll get around to it. Once deer season's over, I'll have more time to fuck around with that kind of thing.
We have people with experiences.
Yeah, it's going to be a cool one. The deer hunter's take on the Sasquatch phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Luke Simon.
We're going to talk about the deer.
Yeah, I guess now you are right now probably the best deer hunter in our family. I mean,
By
Luckiest
far.
this year.
you have killed your number 1 buck with your bow 2 years in a row. And you have the biggest buck in the family on top of that as well. So it's kind of hard to say that you're not the best at the moment.
At the moment, maybe, yeah.
3 years is the sauce, man.
I know I need 3.
We've
Need one more.
I had a 3-year streak. Isaac had a 3-year streak, which is dying in a week. And
Dying hard.
Dying hard. Now you're on a 2-year. Next year will be your chance for your 3-year streak.
Hopefully I can make it happen. But we have a good lineup of bucks over at that farm, too.
Yeah, that's the most promising spot, going into next year. Our farm, some of the other farms we hunt, like your farm is once again probably the most promising looking farm. Mm-hmm. That's a podcast for another day, but let's back up the bus, start from the beginning. There's been a couple podcasts we've already talked about it, and there's a couple videos where we already talked about it. But last year, you went into the season with a clear-cut number 1, a buck called Splits.
Yep.
Watched him all summer. Velvet, trail cameras, this and that. He was obviously he's 150 class 8 point. He was a great, great buck.
Heck of a deer. Made a lot of picture and video appearances. We have 2 full-blown videos about him.
Yep. You only hunted last year. You saw him on your opening day hunt. Great video about that. And then maybe 2 or 3 other sits and killed him on sit 4 or 5?
I think it was sit 5.
Sit 5, you ended up killing him.
What date did you shoot him? October
22.
22nd, yep.
Because then we left for Indiana.
So about
the next
2-3
day.
weeks into the season, but only a handful of sits.
Yeah, you were you knew the buck was in there. You were using your cameras to kind of tell you when he was going to be bedding in a certain bed. And when you had your opening day encounter, he got up out of that bed and moved out. When you had the encounter where you killed him, he got up out of his bed and You took the shot and you killed him. Like I said, October 22nd, great story, this and that. Once he was out of that area, a couple other bucks moved in, but the main buck that moved in was a deer named Sledge last year. He was there for all of November. We didn't have him on camera much in December, but during November, this deer we called Sledge, which we knew he was already at least 4 years old, maybe even 5 last year. Big, wide, heavy frame. The way his antlers pulled out, he had a very,
he looked
very
a lot cooler
impressive,
last year too. I think.
He had a very impressive frame. His beams didn't curl as much; they went out more.
Yep.
So it appeared he had more of like a longhorn type.
Yeah.
So this year we can say that he was kind of on his way downhill, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think he did get heavier.
I mean, he's heavy. These antlers are heavy.
The only real difference between last year and this year, I think, is these beams this year curled in and up. Last year, these beams stayed completely straight, which gave him a different appearance.
Yep.
Did he have any funkiness last
He
year?
had that exact same setup on
Yeah,
that side.
this triple brow over here was exactly the same. This is a heavy 8-point. Never had Ethan had a stand encounter with him last year, and he winded him or saw him instantly.
Saw him right at light.
Instantly.
Shocker.
So we, going into this season, he was going to be at the top of the list. We were very excited to see what happened with that. You played a little bit of a different game with your mineral licks and your trail cameras this summer. I think you were only running, 2 regular cameras and no cells?
Yep. For the first 2 months.
On mineral licks, right? Did you have any in the fields at all?
No.
No.
Nothing
So
in the
super
field.
You have no Browning video of this buck, do you? Like from this year? I
don't think I do.
So super low pressure approach.
Yeah, like you knew going into the season how the deer were using. It's funny because we keep talking about this little bedding area. You killed your buck last year getting up out of a bed and shooting him in the bedding area. This year, do you think he got up out of that bed or no? A bed in that area? Or do you think he came from across?
I think he was in that area.
Yeah.
He just got up, he was only bedded 200 yards away from where I shot him.
So basically, Luke is hunting. There's a major bedding area that's maybe 10, 15 acres.
I think it's 8 acres.
And he hunts the edge of it, all different sides depending on the wind. He's got a couple different stands and then a blind all around this bedding area.
And it's a flat, wooded area.
Flat as fuck.
It's got water in it, though, which is important. I think it's got a natural spring in it.
Yeah, there's an area that always holds water no matter what. Even in the summertime when it's crazy hot, sunny, there's a low spot that always holds water, which is kind of important. And it's underneath kind of a very large tree, big oak tree. So Luke has hunted this bedding area the last 2 years, and in the early season, you can sneak in there, hunt the edge. They can't see through very far. The stem count's insane. That's how you were able to kill your buck last year. You're able to get into these stands, watch him get out of his bed, walk into the wind, make your adjustments, kill him. This year, that wasn't working early, and then late season came. The stem count drops way down with no foliage, and these deer can see across this whole bedding area. So it was a challenge. You changed up your entrance and your exit to the spot multiple times.
And you kind of got to get lucky with the deer bedding.
Yeah, because you
got
got
on the far side of it. If he's bedding close to where you're hunting, he's going to see you.
Yeah,
you just have to get lucky.
But this summer, we confirmed that this buck that you killed this year, we confirmed that he was alive. We glassed him in a bean field about half mile away 3 or 4 different times. I do remember. I got some video of him out in that bean field with a bachelor group of bucks. So we knew he was alive. We knew he was going to be in the area. You didn't have any real early season encounters with him, I don't believe, right? Like October time frame?
I had one encounter with him in a different bedding area. I was hunting on the other side of the farm, and I didn't get footage of him.
Yeah, okay.
But I saw him come through right at last light, and he was 50 yards away on the neighbor's property.
Yeah.
No shot.
Right.
It was dark, but I could tell it was him, and he just came out of this bedding area and moved actually into the farm where I was hunting. Mm-hmm. But went around me and didn't have a shot.
And then you had I wouldn't say very good, but then you had a video encounter where you had to watch him for a while.
Yep.
In November. That was maybe early
that was
November.
The day I shot my doe.
Okay.
So maybe it was the day I missed that doe.
I think it was the day you missed because
I missed the doe, and then I'm sitting there.
Yeah. You're hunting a big open cornfield that time.
Yep. And he comes out on the other side of the cornfield 500 yards away.
Literally 500.
And I just watch him dog this doe across that cornfield.
And he ran across the road and on your life, right?
He did turn around and go back across the road.
That's an interesting point, the dogging and does things. This sumbitch was dogging does all the way up until the day he died.
Yep.
All the way up till January. What day did you kill him?
I don't know.
What was it? 7 days from 19th, 18th or 19th?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was sniffing up a yearling doe, basically.
Yeah, this deer just kept on going. He wasn't stopping with the rutting this year. He was dominant. There was no one challenging him in the area, in the immediate area at least.
Yeah.
No one was challenging him. still running. So you had your November encounter. That appeared in our video, Bowhunting the Rutcation. So that was in our Rutcation video, the one with Dylan's buck and, all our other great encounters. He appeared in that video, heavy. He's got the upward facing rack, chasing does around the field. And then the gun seasons come in. So you got gun season, extended weekend, and muzzleloader. And that's your farm, for all everything good about your farm, those sections of time are rough,
really
rough.
It's a volatile time on the farm because everywhere around is getting drove out by 20 dudes every
deer
weekend.
drives, large deer drives, people hunting on stands, corn piles. I mean, there's just a lot of hunting happening in your area. And, we were staring at the cell cameras. You saw him. So during gun season, he wasn't around much, from what I understand.
No.
During extended gun season, he wasn't around much. He kind of moved back into that bedding area and was using it frequently right before muzzleloader.
I think we got a picture of him on Christmas.
Yeah, and then you were using...
But I didn't see him on picture until I hunted the day before muzzleloader.
Right, the day before muzzleloader.
I saw him, but I didn't get him on camera.
That's when you had your great encounter.
Yep.
He stood up at 70 yards, right?
Yeah, he stood up like 100-some yards away. Like, I watched him stand up out of his bed the same day that you put corn out.
Yep, I was in there around noon, 1 o'clock with the side-by-side. I left the side-by-side running, carrying bags into the woods, dumping, got back in the side-by-side, ripped away. That night, Luke went back in and watched that deer stand up. He was, how far from the corn do you think he was bedding?
100 yards.
100 yards from the corn. That deer was laying there the entire time I was there. Luke watched him get up, and then he skirted the corn. Never came in to eat, but he went to the watering hole.
Went to the watering hole and walked into the wind.
Walked into the wind, went somewhere else to feed that night. The corn was on the downwind side of where he was bedding, to be fair. Mm-hmm. So he just didn't enter that corn downwind.
He's just smart.
He was just smart. You had that encounter. Great, beautiful video that we're going to use in this next episode. You filmed him the whole way through the woods. He's munching on natural browse, sniffing into the wind, drinking out of the water, and then pieced out. You had another encounter, no encounters during muzzleloader, so you hunted all 4 days of muzzleloader.
106 days in a row.
In the snow, sleet, shitty weather, perfect for deer hunting.
Yep.
He never showed. Lots of good encounters.
He definitely got pushed out somewhere, I'm assuming.
Or just...
He was showing up at night once in a while.
Went and hid.
I took a day off.
You took a day off and he showed up.
He showed up in shooting light.
In shooting light the day Luke didn't hunt. Very much last light, but he still showed up in shooting light.
Another day that we dropped corn.
And this started the conversation about he's watching us come in. Like, he is just watching the entry. So Luke started changing up his entry path. You did change up your entry path and had an encounter.
Yep.
He came from an area that you weren't expecting.
He came from the area I came from.
Right.
So I changed it up opposite. I came in the opposite way, and that deer walked in that same way.
Do you think if you would have came in the normal way, they wouldn't have winded you that night, the does? Because the doe, you think, might have winded your entry path? If you would have just walked in the normal way.
They would have came in the... Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think they might have been bedding, though, along where you were walking on the other side and then, like, made a big C? Like, went north and then came back south? Or it's hard to say.
It's hard to say what these deer will do.
It was a crapshoot every day.
And so, anyways, encounter 3, he came in following a doe once again, and then the doe caught your entry trail, got a little spooky, and he just followed her out.
Yeah,
he never came to the corn.
In a panic, but he just walked out with her.
And he never came to the corn that time. So that was your third encounter with him this year. And we're getting into January, mid-January at this point. There was a stretch of warm days coming up, so Isaac decided, fuck it, we're gonna get some bait out. It was kind of muddy. It was I remember specifically it was like a 40-degree weather day, the warmest day in January this year. Muddy, snowy, rainy, crap conditions.
This was right before we had the coldest day.
Yeah, so it was before the coldest day. It was crappy conditions. It was, for deer hunting, it was bad. It was warm, kind of rainy. Snow's melting. It's all mud. Isaac said, fuck it. He went out about 2 o'clock, threw a bunch of corn out because he had nothing else to do. Luke was knocking. He's like, I'm not hunting that night. Like, this is a worthless waste of a night. Wouldn't you know it, man?
Boom.
4:15. He comes in with those does, and he stays at that corn pile for an hour in broad daylight, just munching away. Just a kick in the nuts. And you were planning on hunting the next day because the temperatures were supposed to bottom out. And we had this stretch of literally 0-degree days with -10 mornings. We just got out of this stretch. Luke was really looking forward to hunting that. And then finally, about 3 days after Isaac dropped that corn is when you had your encounter where you ended up killing him.
Yeah. So it was the Sunday before. Monday was -10. Tuesday was -10, but Sunday was like 15 degrees.
So perfect conditions. Not too cold to actually get
It
out there.
was getting cold, but yeah. And he came in at 4:30. I saw him. He followed does in.
Yeah, it took him a while to come in.
Yeah, the does came right in, but he
was real slow. And
He
you'll
was
see all
slow.
this in the video probably next week.
The video is going to be released Saturday before the Super Bowl. So the
Okay.
season ends next Sunday, which is like the 3rd or whatever, 3rd or 4th. The season will end. Then I'll finish up the video and have it released that Sunday, the 8th, before the Super
So
Bowl.
2 weeks from now, basically.
Yeah. Yep.
You'll be able to see all this on the video. But yeah, he comes in.
super slow.
Just doing the 10-step stop, 10-step
And
stop.
then he gets the corn pile, and I draw back.
Well, he was like beyond the corn pile. You drew back because I remember we were watching the video and we
so
were
he was
timing.
coming around. Like I was trying to time it, so.
Well, another problem is he came directly straight at you, so like the angle was bad.
And then he's just front on
Yeah,
while
'cause
I'm drawing.
He stopped at 20 yards probably, broadside. You draw. You hear Luke drawing in the video, and then the deer turns and starts walking towards.
Yeah.
Into the bait.
Because you had like about a 32-yard broadside perfect
Yeah,
shot
I did.
when you drew, and then he turned into you and just came straight in.
And then we watched the video. Luke was drawn back for over a minute, probably a minute and a half.
Yeah,
something like that.
he has a second angle of it.
And I just could not wait any longer.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
So
he
a quarter
did
two shot was
and
kind of risky.
He did open up a little bit though.
Yeah.
He turned left, which kind of opened up his right side. And you decided, fuck it.
And this was
I had to shoot.
It was a 1/4-2 shot, but the way you stuck that arrow, you were obviously up higher than him, and he was 1/4-2 you, and you put this arrow right along that shoulder blade.
It got
and
past it.
It buried all the way up.
To the knock inside the deer. So the knock was behind the right shoulder, and the broadhead was in his left asshole.
Yeah, the broadhead went
It was in
all
his
the way
left-
to
It
his
was stuck in his left leg when we pulled
Yeah,
it.
all the way into his pelvis.
He put an arrow completely lengthwise through this deer. I mean, just drilled him.
So we don't see this a lot with whitetails, but this is like an elk shot.
Yeah.
Like quartering towards.
He's only 10. You're only 10 feet off the ground.
Yeah, you slide it right where you need to, and it destroyed
Devastating.
everything.
What broadhead were you using?
Schwacker.
Always, right?
So Schwacker with a light setup, and he got insane penetration.
Insane.
I'm assuming it hit that shoulder blade, at least cut some of it off.
I guess we'll
I don't
find
know.
out because
We'll have
he's
to look.
still
The deer's still hanging.
He's still completely intact, minus the antlers hanging in the shop over there on the other side. It made a great smack. The arrow, I knew it was a good smack because when he turned to run away, he broke the air. Like there was about this much of the arrow actually right here. You can see about 10
I
inches.
think we need to do something with that sound effect because you hear the shot, the whack, and then a second later it bounces off a tree and you hear like twing.
Yeah,
and the arrow breaks off the tree.
When the arrow breaks like that, that means it's lodged in bone. If the arrow's not lodged in bone, it pulls out.
Yeah,
It'll just like flop around and pull out. No,
but
that
this
arrow
thing, it was like
lodged.
that's what it sounded
Yeah,
like. when it
broke
hit
the
tree.
arrow off, and then Luke kept the video camera on him. And as he was running away through this thicket, this bedding area that we're talking about, he wasn't using his back left leg. It was
Yeah.
completely hanging.
Dragging.
Yeah, like his back left leg was not moving.
Yeah,
at
so it
all,
penetrated all the way to like his pelvis.
Yeah, just
Brutal.
just death.
And I think in the video it's hard to see. I think we see him go down. I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure that's where we.
Because then Luke does the zoom out and leave, and like you can see a little bit of movement. And then the problem was, like we already talked about, there's 2 weeks worth of snow on the ground.
And this woods is notorious for this because it was the same thing with his last buck.
Yeah, he dies right in the middle.
Well, and figuring out where you are.
There's no landmarks, just woods, thick, and it's a square, so it's hard to. When you're in the middle of it, you're like, "Oh, am I here? Am I there? Am I where I'm at?" But the problem was, there was plenty of snow on the ground, so you'd figure, man, there should be a crazy good blood trail. But it was dumping. After that, it started to dump snow. So we came back to the shop. I was actually out to dinner with my family.
Probably waited 2 hours.
Yeah, we probably waited 2.5 hours. And by the time we got back out there, it was pouring down snow. But it took a little bit to find the first blood, and then we kind of didn't know where we were, following it the wrong direction. Everyone was kind of turning around.
The shot wasn't conducive for a good blood trail. High entry, no exit.
Yeah.
Just because of the angle.
But we did end up finding tracks. There's tracks fucking everywhere, obviously. But we did find blood in tracks, and then we were able to follow it pretty good after about 10 to 15 minutes of kind of grid searching and looking around trying to find. We knew he was dead. We just didn't know like exactly where. But we were able to find, I think it was Dylan. Was it Dylan?
Yeah, it was one of the weird situations where it was snowing so much that the deer was covered with snow. So that's why it's kind of hard to spot.
Yeah.
We didn't see the deer until we were 5 feet from him.
And then when we, he had on his death run, he had like jumped up over a decent sized log and then just like kind of curled up and died.
He had to do some thrashing or something.
Because when we got to him,
He was laying on his antlers.
he was laying on his antlers.
One was sticking out and one was next to him.
Yeah, one was sticking out, one was next to him. They were underneath like his back legs.
Yeah, and I won't
belly.
forget. Look, we see his head, and there's just 2 blood marks on top of his head. We're like, what? It scared me at first. Like I didn't know what I was looking at. But then it came together that it was his antlers.
We had talked when we were in the shop here rewatching the video and talking about Luke's hunt. We had mentioned that like the fact that he was still chasing does and like doing some rutting type activity, we weren't that afraid of his antlers popping off. Like I didn't think it would be
scared.
a possibility that his antlers.
Dylan
would
kept
pop
on
off.
saying something. He's like, he probably ran into a tree and popped one off.
It's weird that didn't
And then
happen.
like they both popped off right at the
Because he
died.
barreled through the woods. He was obviously hitting branches and sticks and saplings and stuff, but they didn't fall off until he died.
I mean, you have 200 pounds crunched down.
Yeah, I'm assuming he was thrashing around with the way
Yeah.
they were sitting.
But yeah, both antlers were popped off laying there. It was snowing like crazy. We had 2 cameras running for the track. The track job was me. It was Luke, Ethan, me, Isaac, Dylan, and Freeman.
Yeah.
Yep.
Were there for the track. So that was a good time. Just drinking beer in the woods at night with
Covered
dead
in
buck
snow.
is
Cameras
the
are getting
favorite.
soaked.
That's
Yeah.
my favorite time in the
It was
world.
awesome.
I think I said it a few times where I was standing there, like just the woods at night, snow coming down.
Took some sweet slow-mo videos.
Big old
snow
dead
just
buck.
raining on us.
Yeah.
Drinking beers, no bush lights. It was the only track job we have ever had in our lives where there wasn't bush
Who
light
ran
involved.
out?
We had a fridge full of Miller and Coors.
Yeah.
Somehow,
Depressing.
no bush light.
But yeah, that's the deer. We
That
brought
was
him
the
back to
deer.
the shop. We scored him at 137 and some change with an 18-inch spread. So he's between 135 and 138, depending on how his
I'm
spread
telling
was.
people 138. That's what I'm telling
So
them.
we'll give him an
telling
18 and a half
137.
inch spread.
Yeah, I mean it don't matter. It's an upper 130.
What's he need to
steer.
beat Freeman? He needed to be 19 inches wide to beat Freeman's.
I don't think he's 19.
And he was not
No,
19
he was
inches
not 19.
wide. So Matt's gonna win. Freeman second, Luke third this year on the deer killing chart.
Unless something freaky happens in the
We
next
have
week.
7 days left, and there ain't nothing. We could add $2 together to get 140. Maybe.
That big 8 could show up, but he's probably only 140, probably 141.
Yeah,
I don't know if
he'd
he'd beat Matt's because he's just a clean
Man,
8.
if that big 8 showed up, I'd call off work and
He
start.
might be one. He
start
might be
hunting hard.
150. I don't know.
I would call off work and start hunting hard if that big 8 showed
He's
up.
a big clean 8.
But that's not gonna happen. But yeah, Luke, second year in a row, killing your number 1 buck.
Yep.
Last year, you didn't really have to. You didn't have to really put in a crazy amount of time and effort to kill your buck.
No.
You had the
It was more
perfect
strategy
situation.
than
I had a
strategy
I get to
work.
choose my hunts.
This year, you fucking spent. I mean, I've edited all your videos so far. Plus, we got more to go. I mean, you were in the stand 30, 40 times this year.
I was in the stand 30 times, like before muzzleloader season.
Okay, and then maybe an additional 10 after that.
Yeah.
And then this late season stretch, you did that day of 6 in a row, and then you were hitting it every single night.
I was
after
trying to
work.
hit as much as I could because I knew it was a time thing. I was just gonna have to get lucky.
Yeah, because the fact that he was killable at least 3 or 4 times on trail camera means he was probably killable another 1 or 2 times without being on the trail camera.
Absolutely.
And then you had him close to being in range 2 times in there before that. So it was, it was a numbers game.
Yeah, I just had to put the time in.
And it was perfect. We'd never got it the night that you killed him. We got the does coming in. The trail camera's on a 3-minute delay. We never got a picture of him coming in before you shot him, but we did get a picture of you walking over to check your arrow.
Yeah.
And I remember I was at dinner driving home. Ethan's text message was like, "Luke, I'm gonna come."
Yeah. He's
like, please tell me you shot. And then I remember you just texted the brothers chat. You're just like, I fucking drilled him. Or is that what you said?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, when all this happened, me and Ethan were sitting there eating tacos. And you were out to dinner.
Yeah, I was at Wasabi Japanese Steakhouse.
Yep. So what else we got for the rest of the year? Just one more week of hunting and then shed hunting.
Yeah, one more week of hunting, and then we're going to start getting into our projects. I mean, I can take chainsaw and start clearing out some of these areas. I got permission from the neighbors, kind of back by where we're hunting the 4-year-old 9. I got permission from the neighbors to clean up some of the deadfalls and shit that's in this bedding area to make it better for hunting. I think I'm going to make a big pile of junk to kind of funnel them through that top. I'll probably start on that kind of soon on my days off now that it's this time of year. We have another area I'm going to work on, the watering hole I added this year on the north side. I'm going to clean that up. There's some deadfalls and shit that kind of make that area congested. I'm going to pile all them up and make a nest and open that area up so the deer kind of flow through there a little bit better.
And we are making the conscious effort to get this shit done early.
Yeah, we want to be done by June. So I want to be done with my food plotting.
Last year we were doing shit in September.
Yeah, I want to be done with my food plotting, my stand hanging, and my cleaning of shit out by June this year.
Yeah.
So June, July, August, September can only be a random trip in the woods here and there. Like, keep the pressure way down. Let the cell cameras do their work on the minerals and on the watering holes. We'll let everything play out. We'll watch the bean fields at night from the road. That plan is that's the plan moving forward, knowing that we're going to have shooter quality bucks. Our fields are going to go from back-to-back soybeans to alfalfa this year. We're going to have winter wheat early. During turkey season, the winter wheat will be popping up, which should be good for the turkey hunting.
Yep.
Hopefully that's good. Yeah.
And then over the summer, they'll get that wheat harvested, and the alfalfa and the clover should
Hopefully
be.
it stays cold longer this spring so that wheat stays short.
Yeah.
And we're not hunting in,
I got to
a foot
redo the
long.
sea field food plot. We got to figure out what we want to do there.
So they're not going
the
to
whole
plant
thing's
that?
going to be a field of food. plot.
Well, they tried planting.
Yeah, that area doesn't get good enough sunlight, and it's kind of fucked over there in that corner. So like they're gonna they left it.
Yeah.
They didn't plant wheat there.
Right.
So I'll probably go in and till that up and maybe make some kind of like that might end up being a Nebraska plot. You know.
Won't hurt.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to plant some corn at my place.
Yeah, we want to stop spending so much money on corn, so we're gonna see if we can grow some.
We got a solid 100 pounds of corn seed, which costs, I don't know, $400.
Is that corn seed
probably.
gonna be any good?
Yeah.
We'll find
it'll
out.
Be good.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to plant early. So I'm going to plant early, and then if it's no good, we don't get good germination, we'll go buy some
Okay.
and plant it.
Yeah, we're gonna try to plant some of our own corn next year.
Yeah. I have about 1.5 acres to 2 acres of unused straight field pretty much.
Yeah.
That I don't want to go to weeds, and I don't want to have to mow it, so we're going to try planting corn. That's where Kendall shot her buck this year.
I am in on that.
Right now it's got a combination of oats and winter rye.
Not doing much.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't been over there for 2 weeks.
I drive by it every morning and night. And I don't see anything out there when I'm in there. But Luke, your farm. We talked about doing a big, massive bottomland food plot, and then we kind of, I think, have abandoned that idea.
We're going to let it grow up,
We're
right?
going to let it grow up into a thicket. Put a trail through it.
We're going to let
so
it
the
grow.
farmer can walk through it, but
We're going to let it grow up into a thicket.
Is there anything we could throw down there in the spring that helps that process?
I
Or
mean,
you just let it go natural?
I don't give a shit if we go down there with some screening Egyptian wheat seed.
we can do that. Just
Spread it everywhere.
Throw it in there.
Do a little bit, till it up, hit it with maybe like the ATV disc to kind of turn the ground up a little bit. Throw that Egyptian wheat everywhere and just get 10-foot tall bullshit, weedy, reedy shit.
Yeah.
You know, just to kind of thicken it up and leave it. Hunt the edges. And then we talked about doing some chainsaw work, some cleaning up of that water hole to get so it can get some more better.
So we can hunt
just
it.
so we can hunt it better. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That's kind of the plan for that. I already talked to the one neighbor who we planted the mega plot for last year, or his big food plot. He has a mini, so he's going to dig my watering hole that I made last year with the tractor, the little one, the mosquito pit. He's going to come in with his mini and like
make that big.
5 feet deep and 10 by 20, 5 feet deep. Make that watering hole exactly what I want it to be, fucking big. And then, like I said, I'm going to clean up the area around that as well. So we're going to hunt. We're going to be focusing on the water. The corner of the Seafield has beautiful, perfect water now. So that's part of that game. I mean, like I said, we're running down to the last 7 days of deer season. There's not much in the way of bucks. We're going to finish this year up by just making more meat happen, killing some does, and Luke's story was great. I will be able to make a deer stories episode out of this for next year. So at least I got that.
We only have one episode of deer stories.
Next year we'll have one episode of the deer stories, unless something really, really, really crazy happens. I did notice, speaking of like when we were talking about Luke and his footage, he has no fishing footage in the queue. I took a trip down to the Gore cabin this year in October. We did a bunch of stuff, did some hunting, and I never released it. So I kind of have like a Gore cabin.
I'll be right back.
Luke's on the move. I have a Gore cabin episode that I didn't finish up. So I'll have to see what I want to do about that. Both the Gores did kill bucks down there. We just weren't filming when they did. So maybe I'll make something up with that in the fall to air in that time slot of the deer stories. You have your one Western video.
Yeah, and we'll talk about all that in a later podcast, what we got planned for the fall, video-wise, schedule-wise. But it'd be good. We got a good year coming up.
Yeah, I mean, we might have one last, our next podcast might be our one last, like, recap of the deer season type podcast.
Then we're moving forward.
And then we are moving forward to our off-season stuff. So the podcast is going to change gears here real quick from, what's happening here late season deer hunting to we're going to get into shed hunting, turkey hunting, the Bigfoot podcast, There's a lot of stuff coming that's going to be different than what we've been podcasting about. So
we appreciate everybody sticking with us, especially coming up into the off season. Keep listening.
Yeah,
keep watching.
This is when it really shows who our viewers are. The metrics we're going to get from now until June, July is going to be the guys that are actually just tuning in and listening.
Yeah,
every
so
week.
we appreciate it. Like I said, send us messages, comment. Yeah. We'll talk about them on the podcast. If you have anything you want to say, bring up. We'll definitely shout you out.
Yeah, we got to film one of these every week.
And Deer Shot Podcast episode
79.
79.
Yep.
And we are out.
Out.
Peace.